On Turning Point is a man that's made millions around the world laugh. He's telling us about his life journey. Ali Baba, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me again.
So you told us the significance of your name, and it's quite a story. And your love for books was where we left off. Tell me a bit more about the impact of books in your life, because as comedians, you know, people don't know that comedians read. You read?
Well, the thing is that for me, really, being a comedian does not mean that you shouldn't read. Actually, as a comedian, you should read a lot more than any other person, because your materials will come from those places. Mm-hmm. And two other books, when I started doing stand-up comedy, that helped me greatly were The Reader's Digest, National Geographic, Besides the Bible.
National Geographic?
Yes.
What kind of material can you get from the National
Because
Geographic?
then I can compare the situation of somebody who is in Yugoslavia with a Nigerian situation. I could talk about somebody who is in Minnesota and talk about how that compares with somebody who is in Nigeria here. So those books will bring places close together for you to milk out the humor out of it.
But let me ask you though about faith. Where did the Jesus thing happen for you, and how did the Bible come alive to you in your consciousness as you read it?
For me, initially, when I started reading the Bible, it was very young. My mom was a chorister. My dad was in a missionary school, and when he was teaching, he had Bibles. I first came across the commentaries, the Matthew's commentary, as far back as 1982.
Matthew Henry?
Yes, Matthew Henry's commentary. Because when I read something and I ask my dad, what's this story about? And my dad will say, okay, he will give me the background of the story. And when I finished getting the background of the story, reading the verse and the story in the chapters made more sense. And my dad read philosophy and geography in Unilag, University of Lagos. And when I was supposed to go read law, he wanted me to read law. And there was something with a cutoff mark. I had 246. And I didn't get into law because the quota system was full. And so my dad said, read religious studies and philosophy for the time being, first year, and then you can change over to law. And it was in the first year that I discovered stand-up comedy.
Wow.
And so there was no going back to reading law. And that was where my first clash, as it were, with my dad came, because he wanted me to read law, because every Yoruba man at the time wants his son to read law because there are land cases that need to be won. You know.
But now I guess everyone is happy because
there was a turning point. There was a turning point.
Okay,
yes,
tell us about that.
There was a turning point. The turning point was that since I refused to read law, my dad and I just went our ways, different ways. He refused to pay school fees and refused to care because I refused to read law. And I knew what I wanted to do. I knew it wasn't like I was disobeying him. I just had this very strong instinct. In fact, I put something he had taught me way back to him. I said, first of all, you taught me when I was growing up that a job is supposed to do 5 things for you. You're supposed to give you shelter, put food on the table, give you respect, recognition, and fame. It's supposed to help you help others. And then the final one is that it's supposed to make you your maker. Whatever you do, you must be ready to meet your maker. And so if your job is going to keep you away from meeting your maker, then you need to change your ways. So I said, all of those I could meet with being a comedian. And my dad said, who has been a comedian that has been successful in Nigeria? But he could mention lawyers who were successful. And so he wanted me to become a lawyer. And so in becoming a comedian, it shook up his faith in me. And we parted ways.
But when was it that you were able to cross that line?
It was in 2005, yeah. Because I started making moves to get back to let him know, because I'd made a name, I had become popular, I started making some money. And so the funny story was that I bought a car and took back home. It was an S-Class. And so I took it, my Mercedes-Benz S-Class, I took it back home And when I finished saying hello to him, he was still like reluctant and, but he had heard about the things I was doing and how I was helping my sisters and everybody. And so he said, no problem. Welcome, bye. So as I was about leaving, he now said, so you guys have a safe ride back. And I said, no, this is your car.
That will get any dad's attention.
And he said the name he had refused to call me, because every time people see him and say, oh, I saw your son, Ali Baba is doing very well. My dad says, I don't have a son called Ali Baba. My son is Atunyota. My son is Hallelujah. I don't have a son called Ali Baba. So when I got back that day and gave him the car and left the keys, and my dad looked at me and said, Ali Baba. Yeah. That was a turning point. We now became, he hugged me, prayed for me, and then for him, really. And let me tell you something that is strange but true. It is that the things my dad felt then, I'm feeling now.
I was going to ask you, now that you're a father, do you understand where he was standing?
Exactly.
And are you saying the same things he was saying?
Exactly. Because this is what my dad told me. The things that I told you would happen to you. And so there I was, but like 2 months ago, and my first son comes and says he wants to be a DJ. I said, for what? I said, DJ, as you could be an architect, you could be a lawyer, you could be. And he said, no, that he wants to be a DJ. I said, okay, this is it. Get a degree first, and then you can be whatever you want to be.
So hold on. So when he starts DJing and he's doing the amphitheater in Rome and he gets his first
That's
meal,
my son.
That's my son. He comes home and they says, Daddy, that Cessna jet, that's for you, baby. You will hug him too.
That's my son, But in all of this is that, I have, like the question you asked me about what's the place of faith, and in all of this, it's that I've grown to like the Bible stories. I've grown to learn a lot more from the stories that the Bible tells. Not because I read religious studies and philosophy, but because I read. It did not matter whether I read the course or not, but because I could read a chapter. Because I told you, I said I grew up to reading the commentaries. The commentaries will give you a background of what the stories were. It's like a contest question. And so I'll take a story like Moses in the basket. And I'll tell you, did you know that the mother must have planned it? The mother went an extra mile to know when the princess would be there, to know that the princess wanted a child, to know the taste of the princess so that she can prepare the basket properly. And because she also knew that the princess will not go to have a bath in a place where the water is stagnant. And so she knows the water will keep flowing. And if the water keeps flowing, that makes it fresh. And the water is fresh, it means that if you put the basket in, the baby will float away with the water. And she knew she had to put Miriam there to watch the basket. so that if the basket is floating away, Miriam can push it back into position so that the princess will see the basket. And so when I see those kind of stories and I start telling you about how that reflects in management of a business, you will know that I didn't just read the Bible. It's that it's done a lot more.
Now, we're ridiculously over time.
Oh, we are?
Yes, we are.
Well, it's a story of my life. We just keep overrunning the times that we're allotted.
Atuyota, hallelujah, Akpobome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Akpobome.
Akpobome, Atuyota, hallelujah, Akpobome, a.k.a. Ali Baba. Thank you for joining us at Turning Point.
Thank you for having me.